Big game hunting, the pursuit of large animals for trophies and sports. Is that actually what the Bucks are doing here? And do we have numbers that would tell you, let's maybe pump the brakes? We dig into some of the offensive issues and the latest rumors on today's Locked On Bucks.
You are Locked On Bucks, your daily Milwaukee Bucks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in to Locked On Bucks. I am Justin Garcia, joined as always by Camille Davis. We thank you for making this your first listen of the day, and to everyone for helping make the Locked On Sports Network the #1 sports podcasting network in the industry. Today's episode of Locked On Bucks is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. You can find Camille weekly on our Locked On NBA coverage and the Technical Foul podcast as well. You can hear me, of course, each and every game on the Bucks radio network and our post-game shows as well, which I've seen a few of you trickling into as you're waiting for Camille and Frank to get their post-game reaction out there. Yesterday, Camille, we addressed some of the rumors that were out there, what the Bucks should do for trades, and shortly after we recorded it, even more started to come out with some potential names that this team was linked to. So we did a little blurb on what is the definition of big game hunting, because I think it's Jake Fisher that had the report of, hey, the Bucks are going big game hunting here. The sounds of it, that they're in a staring contest right now with Giannis, and they're adamant, we are not trading you unless you ask to be traded. So we're not even taking calls from teams. We're hanging up and telling them he's not available. And Fisher's reporting was Giannis just isn't willing to say, I want to be traded. So here we go. We're going to have this standoff for months and months and months. Some of the names that came up, I don't know that I would link to quote unquote big game hunting. And as you and I were talking before we started recording, I took that report as my intel tells me the Bucks are trying to cook up something big here, but they've also been linked to these names, and those names, of course, Zach LaVine, which we mentioned, some other very interesting ones, which definitely don't fit big game hunting. Like we saw Marcus Smart and Andrew Wiggins on there. And the bigger one yesterday was Jeremy Grant, who would kind of fit the vibe of, teams that we've criticized in the past for how they run their organization of like, oh, this guy had a big game against me. He's got to be good. Let's go trade for him. Jeremy Grant is going to be 32 years old, I believe, at the end of the season here, or in a matter of months. He's making $32 million, so he is, along with Drew Holiday, the highest paid member of the Portland Trailblazers, and that contract runs for another year with a player option after that deal for $36 million in the 27-28 season. So either way, any way you slice it, unless it includes like a Bobby Portis or a Miles Turner, you would be taking on money and years in a contract to bring in Jeremy Grant. But let's just start there without any players linked or any talks intensifying reports of that nature. When you saw the name Jeremy Grant, what was your thought?
Well, that says
it all.
That was that was my exact reaction to it. Cause he's definitely a big wing. We know he can score a bit. The price tags is a bit hefty for him at the moment. And one thing that I really loved about the direction the team was going in this summer was that it felt like the Bucks were trying to get younger and adding guys. And I kept saying hey, free agency all off season. Hey, let's make sure we're adding guys who are younger than Giannis. Not saying they have to be projects, but just let's keep the age in mind of guys that we're adding onto this team. And Grant doesn't quite fit into that. He's not a big wing that attacks the glass or anything like that. He's going to get you some buckets for sure. And that's, I don't want to just dumbify his game down to that, but that's what he's really going to give you. He's going to give you some buckets. So it wasn't a name that really moved me. And to be honest with you, a lot of the names that I've heard associated with the Milwaukee Bucks so far during this trade rumor season, they haven't really been like any names. I'm like, hey, if they could figure out a way to do this, I'd be excited about it. Like every name I've heard so far be thrown around, it's kind of been like, I don't really think that fits. I don't know if that's really what you want. It kind of feels given a little desperate up to a certain degree. But I mean, it is what it is. And the Bucks don't have many assets to begin with.
No. Those other names to round out the reports were Marcus Smart, who we mentioned, Andrew Wiggins.
Really quick on Marcus Smart. On the Marcus Smart one.
DeJounte Murray was the last name, but yeah, on Marcus Smart, go ahead.
We mentioned this on Technical Foul last night, and one of my co-hosts is a Lakers fan. And when it was thrown out that one of the names associated with the Bucks was Marcus Smart, he was like, take him. Go ahead quickly. And whenever a fan base tells you go ahead and take a player, generally there's a reason behind that.
Yeah, I mean, those names are not names you would say are quote unquote big game that you're hunting after. I mean, I suppose Zach LaVine, debatable. It's right. It's a known name, but debatable on whether or not that's quote unquote big game hunting. Jeremy Grant is not. No. Andrew Wiggins is not. I think Andrew Wiggins would be helpful for this team, but also if you're the Miami Heat and you look at it, how much impetus do you have to trade with the Bucks and motivation? Unless you just say, look, we've had the guy in our building. We value X, Y, and Z that he does. This guy isn't going to be a difference maker for it. Like, this guy isn't going to be what unlocks everything. And now the Bucks are back and they're winning. So, all right, let's milk some assets out of you. And then maybe your best players still ask for a trade over the summer. And we can be one of those teams that makes that deal. But yeah, I take it as the big game name is something we haven't heard. And that is a staple of John Horst, that they move in silence. And, you know, you think back to the Drew trade, and even the Bucks fans were clamoring for it, but we realistically looked at it and thought, I don't know how the Bucks kind of enter this conversation with what they have. Same for Dame. And yet there we were, each of those instances that he was able to pull the trigger on it. So we shall see. That is the latest on the updates here for potential moves that the Bucks are. But I think the larger picture in Jake's reporting is something that, at least for the time being, puts Bucks fans at ease, and that we are hanging up the phone. We've told teams we're not doing it. And like, if you want to be traded, tell me you want to be traded. And that hasn't happened. So I still believe there's not going to be a trade in season for numerous reasons, cap wise, but that as well just kind of doubles that logic. So knowing that, then it just shifts to, okay, we're going to have you at some point in a matter of, I think, weeks, based on what Doc said yesterday. We'll get to coming up next. Can we put ourselves in a spot to figure this out and become the quote-unquote dangerous play-in team, if that is our ceiling? So what Doc Rivers had to say after practice yesterday, I know it raised a lot of eyebrows, especially on one end of the floor, some of the things that he said, the update that he had on Giannis, and some other numbers, Camille, that I dug up in the spreadsheet that I have crafted here after every game that really, really stand out. We'll dig into that coming up after this. You know, there's no reason to let big wireless drain your wallet, especially during the holidays. Right now, Mint Mobile is running their best deal of the year. All of their unlimited plans are 50% off. That means you can lock in 3, 6, or even 12 months of unlimited premium wireless for just $15 a month. It's the easiest way to take your overpriced phone bill and give it the full Scrooge treatment. What makes this even better is how simple Mint makes the switch. No contracts, no nonsense, just real savings and real quality service. Switching to Mint lets you keep your same coverage for a lower price. Setup only takes minutes. You can bring your own phone number in without any issues. Service is fast and super reliable, even on the go. And it feels good knowing you're not overpaying just to stay connected. Turn your expensive wireless present into a huge wireless savings future by switching to Mint. Shop Mint Unlimited plans at mintmobile.com/lockedonnba. That is mintmobile.com/lockedonnba. Limited time offer, upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12 months. Plan required, taxes and fees, initial plan and term only. 35 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. Capable device required. Availability, speed, and coverage varies. See mintmobile.com for details. And thank you for making Locked On Bucks your number one listen of the day. You can now level up and go ad-free. If you join the Everydayer Club, you get Locked On Bucks with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and more, all for just $5 a month or $50 a year. If you go annual, you can find the URL to join the Everydayer Club in the show episode description of today's podcast. And maybe, Camille, we're thinking of ways to juice it up. We talked about it on a show last week. Maybe the Discord access, we just give you some insights into the text threads that we have with some other media members as well. Speaking of media members, they were at the Freightert Sports Science Center yesterday for Doc and a couple of players after practice. There was a lot of takes flying on social media with what Doc Rivers had to say. Some of it stood out to me. One piece of it, actually two pieces in particular. I guess we mentioned an update on Giannis too. It's not like a concrete update, but he was asked about Giannis and basically said it's going to be a while if you read between the lines. So I take that as it like New Year's Eve at the absolute earliest, probably not until the first week of January for the Giannis return, which then puts even more importance on everything else that he had to say. So I had two things in mind. I think we're going to overlap on one of them, but what stood out about what he had to say to you?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that stood out to me was Doc just talking about the offense in general and saying, like, there's not many changes that he's looking to make to the offense. And I was kind of like, really? Not yet? But the other part of that kind of goes into why this stood out to me is that he was talking about not being too reactionary. And he was saying, our team was in a really good spot 48 hours ago. Then we had this terrible loss. And I'm not going to completely change course over one game. You don't want to be reactionary. And I absolutely agree with that sentiment. You don't want to be a coach or a staff that is just reacting egregiously to one situation. Right. But my problem might be too strong of a word, but the thing that kind of made me,
I don't think so.
Is it not? Okay. My problem with it is that it's not just one game that the offense is being reacted to about though. The game against Brooklyn was bad for sure. We talked about it. There's no need for us to say any more about what a terrible, terrible outing that was for the Milwaukee Bucks, but the offense hasn't been great this season. The Milwaukee Bucks still have one of the best effective field goal percentages in the entire league. It's second. So it's when they get a chance to put the ball up into the hoop, normally it's going in. To have the second ranked effective field goal percentage in the league and the 17th ranked offense by points per possession is mind baffling to me to a degree of something clearly isn't working here. Clearly, the whole concept of the offense being purely drive, kick, try to spray out isn't working, especially now that you're down a Giannis who can create his own shots in various ways, have the gravity that can create for others, so on and so forth. It feels to me like the offense needs more, especially with Giannis out of the lineup. So to hear there's no changes to the offense, but he did concede hey, defensively, we're going to simplify some things and try to get that together. And I get that because the defense has been worse than the offense, but the offense hasn't been this thing that I feel is beyond reproach. So that part kind of was why no changes to the offense then?
Okay. 100% aligned on that. I would also push back on we were in a good spot before the Nets game.
That's fair. That's
fair. I mean, no, but fine. I'm glad you brought up some of those numbers because I was looking through it, listening to it, and having to go back and think, what am I missing here? Is it possible I'm just too close to this? I can't see the forest from the trees and we're overlooking X, Y, and Z. Then you dug into it even more and looked at the four factors, and you mentioned one of them. They have the number 2 effective field goal percentage in the league. Pretty good, right? Should be good. Of the teams that are in the top 10 for effective field goal percentage. How many of them do you think are in the top 10 in offensive rating?
Well, knowing the Bucks are in there, I would say 9.
Well, we know one isn't, right?
I would guess not, but
you're going to say 9?
I'm going to say 8.
8 is correct. It is the Bucks and the Atlanta Hawks. The Hawks are 7th in effective field goal percentage and 16th in offense, which kind of checks out. Like, they're closer to the bottom in the top 10, and they're middle of the pack in offensive rating. By record, they're a middle of the pack team at 15 and 12. The Bucks are 2nd and 17th. The other teams, the Nuggets, 1st in effective field goal percentage, 1st in offense. Thunder, 3rd in effective field goal percentage, 4th in offense. Lakers are 4th in effective field goal percentage, 7th in offense. Timberwolves are 5th and 6th. Knicks are 6th and 2nd in offense. Spurs are 8th and 9th. So Celtics 9th and 5th, and the Rockets are 10th and 3rd. So you see they're tied to each other very closely, and it's just not the case for the Bucks. In the case of the Atlanta Hawks, it's similar reasons why the Bucks are not there. So it's not hard to see what the issues with this are. The Bucks are 17th right now in turnover rate on offense. That number has started to slip further and further away as the season has gone on. Hawks are 19th. The Bucks are dead last in offensive rebounding. The Hawks are 23rd, and the Bucks are 2nd worst at getting to the free throw line. The Hawks are 25th there. So that's the company you're in. You cannot be in the bottom half of multiple of those 4 factors and expect to be a good offensive or defensive, whichever side of the ball you're looking at. You're not going to be good if you're in the bottom 10 in multiple categories in there. I mean, the Celtics, 30th in free throw rate, fine. Number 5 in offense, number 9 in effective field goal percentage, number 2 in how infrequently they turn it over, number 7 in offensive rebounding. So it's one area, and that's how it always was under Bud, too. It was, we're going to do everything well except offensive rebound, but we're going to get to the free throw line, we're going to look for quality shots, we're going to protect the ball, and our offense is going to be good. They're doing none of that so far this season, and it really stands out even more when you look at the true shooting attempts for this team. So Frank and I talked about this on whatever post-game show. All of these losses are
blur together a little bit here.
Together, Camille. But Frank and I talked about this on one of the more recent shows, the true shooting attempts and why this is important, right? It's everything that we just talked about in the 4 factors here. But to distill it here, your true shooting attempts are you take your field goal attempts and you add your free throw attempts times, like it's like 0.44 or something to factor in the end ones and everything else, just to say, okay, if they're getting fouled and they're getting into the free throw line and they're getting up shots, these are the amount of actual shots this team is taking throughout the course of a game. In that spreadsheet that I keep for every single team, I have true shooting attempts on average. Because I started this because, frankly, this was the one reason why I could not find that anywhere else for the full season. You can find games. So where would you guess the Bucks rank for average true shooting attempts per game in the NBA?
Given that it factors in free throws, which has been an area for the Bucks where they haven't been able to get there too often. But I mean, they're shooting really well, so that kind of brings me up. Maybe like 11th or somewhere in there.
Okay, you think it's 11th. We'll give you the reveal coming up after the break here, Camille, where the Bucks rank, why this has become a problem, and then the one other thing we haven't gotten to that Doc had to say after a practice yesterday. We'll get to all of that coming up next. Well, the World Cup is coming back to North America for the first time since 1994, and with 48 teams for the first time ever, it's going to be massive. But getting tickets, that's usually the hardest part. And that's why the Game Time app is clutch, finally giving fans a real advantage when it comes to snagging seats. With Game Time, you can track price drops in real time, get alerts when great seats open, and buy tickets the moment they hit the app. It puts the power back in your hands and makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of impossible. You pull up the app, and the layout makes it simple to scroll through the matchups and compare seat views. Just pick a game, tap a section, and have your tickets locked in within minutes. No confusion, no hunting for fine print. As we said, you get the seat view as well. You can literally see what the pitch looks like from your seat before you make the purchase, and get alerts for teams and matches to make it easy to grab those tickets the moment they drop instead of missing out. So take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets and every match, concert, or event with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the app, make an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off with Game Time. Speaking of Game Time and hunting down tickets, Camille, I was talking to our boy over the weekend, who I believe used Game Time to get in the building in D.C. to take in John Cena's final match. I mean, Kane just living his best life here. All right, your guess was 11th for true shooting attempts per game. It is 29th.
Oh my goodness! Free throws have tanked.
29th.
Wow.
So the Bucks are averaging 94.7 true shooting attempts per game. The league average, Camille, guess what number the league average is?
Say the Bucks number one more time.
94.7. And by the way, only the Clippers are worse at 94.5.
Yeah, you don't want to hear that. I'm going to guess league average is like 105?
100.1.
Okay.
Still, you're 5 fewer shots per game than what the average is seen in the league. Not the best, the average. Their opponents, Bucks opponents. So if they're taking 94.7, how many would you guess the opponent is getting?
They're probably taking like 100 at the very least.
I was stunned. I expected this number to be higher. It's not good, but 99.3 is the opponent average. So they are giving up, with the decimals and rounding, it's minus 4.7 that you are facing in true shot attempts per game. What you're taking versus what the opponent is taking. You said you don't want to hear that name and be in the company of the Clippers. Only one team is worse than the Bucks in that deficiency, and that's the Wizards, who are minus 7.1. So you are second worst in the league at your volume of true shot attempts, and you're second worst in deficiency. In other words, how much more the opponent is getting than you. And both those teams you're in the neighborhood of are a really bad Clippers team, and, you know, as Kuz said about the Nets, a Wizards team that's also not trying to win. These should be alarming things that stand out, which is why I do have to push back and say, to your point, no, it is a little more serious than this of like, we can't overreact here. The offense will be fine. It's, you know, it's efficient. We're getting good shots.
Wow.
Because it's not as simple as that. And it's the modern math of the league where the company you're in with those numbers, that's the most important thing, is possessions, and true shot attempts takes that into account. You're 29th in the two most important areas there. You're not going to turn it around if you continue to hover in that range.
And like, this is one of those situations where it's like a lot of things are true, right? There have been bad, as we have just laid out with the numbers. Giannis has been hurt. That affects things. They have been now playing without AJ Green. That affects things. One thing that Doc also mentioned was that, you know, the pairing of Kevin Porter Jr., Ryan Rollins, you know, like, it seemed to me as if he was saying like, hey, so when everybody's healthy, they won't be sharing the court together starting anymore. We're going to try to split those two up, which makes some sense. But given where they are right now,
I would say it does not make sense, because I don't know about you. I was guilty of this last year too, when we were talking about, that's fine. Like, just Gary likes his role on the bench, bring him off the bench, yada, yada, yada. Like, no, especially when we've seen the construction of this roster, that it may not have, I'm not going to say it's not good, but it may not be to the level that we thought it was coming into the season. You have to play your best players together and play them for extended periods of time. And those are very clearly your three best players, if not three of your four best players. So, like, no, there is no scenario where you should say, you know what, I think we need to break them up a little bit more. Like, if you're going to talk about staggering, fine. But that doesn't mean, well, one guy starts and one guy doesn't. It means, okay, you're going to get the quicker hook in the first quarter so we can preserve you for some bench minutes. But, like, we need minutes with the three of you guys on the floor together.
See, I was thinking like if they're all healthy, then your starting lineup would be Kevin Porter Jr., AJ Green, Kuz, Giannis, and Turner, with how they've been playing, trying to put the more size on the wing. And we've talked about the spacing challenges that can come with Kuz and Giannis sharing the court together. But with the way that Kuz has been playing this season, again, part of it is based on if they can utilize him properly. We don't want Kuz just standing in corners. He has to be active on cuts and whatnot. And one could argue,
And I think he largely has not done that.
right. And the only time I really saw it was the first start against Charlotte, where he was really active in that way. But like, if it's not going to be consistent, then there's no point to start Kuz anyways. But if they can do that, then I do like that combination a bit. But yeah, I mean, to your point, like, you want your best players playing together. I just wonder for Ryan, and it's hard too, because it's been a lot of up and down for Ryan. It's been a lot of growth on his plate. If he can just be like, hey, I'm running that second unit, but you could achieve that, as you said, by the quick pull of the staggering. Yeah. So there's a lot of different ways to get to it. But that was something else that Doc did mention, of just like, hey, maybe we split these two up a little bit more. But right now, without AJ Green, without Giannis, and as much as we probably paint this, without Taurean Prince, who probably should not be this big of a missing link to this team. But again, the wing size is important. I understand why this is the way that they're playing it right now. Will be interesting to see how it looks when everybody comes back healthy, but they got to figure something else out. Like he mentioned too in that Nets game that part of the problem for the offense was that their game plan for that game was something different, and the guards weren't executing that, which made everyone else confused. And I was kind of like, okay, I can see that happening as well. But again, the offense has been what the offense has been, which is a drive and kick heavy type of situation. So I don't know, Justin, to your point though, about the numbers, the offense has to change. Like, yes, I think the pieces, like having an effective field goal percentage that high, shows like the pieces can work. Right. It's like, can we put them in a better situation though, to get more consistent results, to get a higher volume of shot attempts? Like, something has to change.
Well, and look, I get, and it's valid. It's not the excuse, but it is one of the reasons you have Giannis, and you have a roster that was built around Giannis to maximize him and to surround him with guys that would pair nicely with him. And you haven't had Giannis, unfortunately, for extended periods of time this season. It was the back of your mind. I don't want to say it, but what if a thing that was hanging over this team coming into the season? Fine. But injuries happen. I mean, teams are dealing with it. And as we just said, it may be a little different for the Bucks with the way that this team has been set up, with how they're looking to play. But other teams have dealt with injuries. Like Cleveland hasn't had their full, arsenal of guys all season, basically. I mean, I think there's other issues going on in Cleveland than that, but Cleveland hasn't had their guys. I mean, look no further than taking the conference out of it, because it's still a third of the way through the season. But when you look at these rosters, Camille, who has the better collection of talent? The Bucks or the Phoenix Suns? Like, at the very least, I think it's identical, right? It's about the same. I mean, the Bucks obviously have the super duper star in Giannis, and Devin Booker's been healthy this season. He's missed 3 games for the Suns, but still, Phoenix is 14-12 on the season. In those 3 games that Devin Booker's missed, if you take it out and say, okay, what about when he plays? Okay, they're 13-8 in those games, and they're doing that where your second best players, Dylan Brooks, what he's brought in terms of the defense and everything, and just the culture that we've seen him be. But
guy at this point.
Jalen Green has basically, for all intents and purposes, been out all season with an injury that they didn't anticipate. It's been like Grayson Allen, Dylan Brooks, and Colin Gillespie is their second best players on this team, and they're running along at a playoff pace here in the Western Conference. So to me, that tells you, like, no, this is possible. Like, there are other teams that have figured out ways, even being we have one star and just role players around him. They're finding ways to win. And yes, it does take your star being healthy, but there's more to it than that. When you look at how Phoenix is finding success here, again, they've been pretty bad at putting opponents at the free throw line and protecting the ball. They're doing everything else well. It really comes down to offensive rebounds, that the Suns are not. Suns are doing that. And a lot of teams that have good offenses are doing it. I mean, you look at two teams you would say don't. The Bucks certainly not good. The Thunder don't do that. Offensive rebounding, but guess what? They do everything else. They're number 4 in offense, protect the ball, number 1 in turnover rate, number 3 in effective field goal percentage, and defensively, they're number 1 basically in every single one of those 4 factors. Boston, another team, doesn't crash the offensive glass. They do everything else, or excuse me, they do now. That was one of their big changes. Miami didn't do it, but they're starting to come back to earth. They're playing at a faster pace. They're protecting the ball. You look at all the teams that are in the bottom 10 in offensive rebounding rate, it's a group you don't want to be in. The Clippers, the Pacers, the Bulls, the Wizards, the Mavs, who've started to play better now, the Kings, the Bucks, and then those outlier teams. So to me, it comes down to that. And this is what I want to hear. And I know Doc had, that back and forth where he was clearly agitated by it with Eric Name a couple weeks ago. And that I don't want to hear this question anymore. We have the defensive rebound, offensive rebound. You either can or you can't. And I think at this point, we have unfortunately seen more than enough data to say that is just not the case. That even if you quote unquote can't, you have to try to do it because of the importance of possessions in this game.
Yeah, and clearly with what we have outlined here, like they need to get more possessions. Like that's what we're talking. Like they have to get more shot attempts up. And that's what I was saying, like, to put a bow on it, like this Bucks team is one of those things where it's like there are a lot of things that are true at the same time, right? And it's not just one thing or the other. It's a lot. Like you said, yes, they have played games without Giannis. Yes, this is a team that was designed to be maximized with Giannis. And we said before the season started, if Giannis is missing time, this team isn't really going to get to where we think that they possibly can get to. That is all true. But also, even without Giannis, the offense has not been good enough. The defense has not been good enough. Like these things have all been happening. Even when he was healthy, the defense wasn't good enough. And the offense, yes, it's going to struggle without the superstar behind it. But as you pointed to, other teams have figured out ways, at least for stretches, to make sure that the offense doesn't fall off an entire cliff, that it's somewhat effective. So the Bucks just have, Doc keeps saying like the team has to do soul searching and everybody has to take a look inward and figure things out and be accountable. And he keeps saying, it starts with me. It starts with me as the coach. And I agree with that. So again, it's disappointing to hear like there's no changes going to be made here when we can see with our eyes and numbers back up that the offense is underperforming, especially given how well they can shoot the ball. Like they're underperforming. Like there has to be something done differently.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't even touch on the defense, which by the numbers has been putrid. It has been even worse. And there are larger discussions to be had there, right? But I think in terms of your personnel, when you look at this and you say, what's the area we can most quickly impact and have a hand in turning around here without any sizable moves, it would be the offense. And it comes down to protecting the basketball. Kevin Porter Jr., Ryan Rollins, and Giannis. Like part of it too is that, right? That you've had Giannis missing time. You've had KPJ missing time. We've talked about Rollins being the only quote unquote ball handler or facilitator on the floor. Your turnover rate is going to tank when that's the case. I get that. But even in games when you've had both of the guys on the floor, or 2 of the 3, I should say, it has not been good. That you need to limit and frankly, eliminate those mistakes. Like I don't want to see any more leaving your feet to pass or leaving your feet and not having a thought or thinking like, oh, can't get this shot off. I'm just going to pass, because it feels like to the naked eye, the Bucks have had that more than any other team in the league so far this season. So you got to protect the ball. And I mean, especially if it seems like a losing strategy, but if you are not going to say we need to go after offensive rebounds even more, then you better protect the ball. You better slice your turnovers in half, and you're going to have to gamble more and be even more aggressive defensively to try to secure some turnovers to get those shot attempts up, the true shot attempts, and just win the possession battle. Because, all these numbers that we're looking at, Camille, if we did a blind resume, there is no one that would look at this and say, yeah, I believe this team can turn it around when they get Giannis back, because every single number you look at is telling you this team has played like a bad team. And it's not just a 10-game stretch. It's nearly 30 games that we're looking at. So I would say it's pretty dire to say now is the time to absolutely turn all of these things around here. Any closing thoughts on that?
Just that if this team thinks that just adding Giannis back without changing anything is going to drastically change the outcomes that we have been seeing, that's fool's gold. Like that's just the last thing I'll say on that.
Leave your thoughts in the comments about some of these startling numbers too, the possession game, the true shot attempts, where the Bucks are coming up short, and your thoughts on what was said after practice yesterday. We will address it on an upcoming show. We teased it yesterday. I believe schedules didn't work out, but we're pretty confident we are going to have a 3-person show tomorrow, and we're going to get Frank on the show tonight to record with us and get his thoughts on this as well. But continue to leave your thoughts in the comments here on a lot that's going on with this team. Thanks as always for tuning in to Locked On Bucks. As we mentioned, Frank will join us on tomorrow's show to get us set for the Raptors game and everything that follows. Make sure you subscribe and follow the show so you get all of the latest episodes. If you have a last minute or need a last minute gift idea for someone that keeps asking you what you want, make it easy. Ask for the Everydayer Club, ad-free episodes of the show, exclusive Discord server access, and more. Subscriptions can be gifted through a link you can find in the show description. For those of you on video, we send you to the first ever 24/7 NBA YouTube channel. On audio, make sure you make that your second listen. NBA Game Night on Locked On NBA. For Camille, I'm Justin. We'll talk with you guys once again tomorrow on Locked On Bucks.